Yo, 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 what it do, what it do, what it do? So, listen, this is not a pessimistic, nor is it a negative, post. It is just a bit of acknowledgement. I think people need to acknowledge some things. Or maybe people don't, because certainly can't change really much people's perspectives, how people react to things. You only change your own inner work, if you will. So with that being said, very interesting how everything works. Everything operates. And more and more I start to realize that for what? And when you really look into things and you understand how things work and how this works and this, most people don't, because it's compartmentalization, right? And most people do things, right? Work, get jobs, right? Careers, right? That they think are noble jobs, if you will. And in reality, it's just compartmentalization, right? And you're told that, and we're programmed to believe that. And we're programmed to believe that if you work in all these government spaces, if you will, right? You're doing your civic duty, or whatnot, right? Police officers, if you will, they're just doing their jobs, right? But upon further review, when you actually understand how all this stuff works and who does what and who's getting paid and what, when you really understand it, it's all corrupt. It's all corrupt, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense that we're in a world that operates this way. It just don't make no sense. And I'm not going to be influenced by it, right? I'm not going to let it, for a long time I let that, I understand a lot of how inner workings are, and I like to look at and use my own logic, right? And see if that even makes any sense to begin with. The narratives, at least, right? But, yeah. I'm taking a different approach, my vibration, my frequency, being cognizant of one's frequency, and, not allowing my emotions to dampen or be a burden to said frequency. I think we are electromagnetic beings, and for the longest time I can remember, a lot of people looked at me as someone that was always in a happy-go-lucky mood, and that just has not been the case. We go through learning periods in life and whatever, but and so I say all that to say, like, that's how I've prepared myself, and not getting emotionally attached one way or the other to how the system operates, and not speaking from my ego either. Having the ability to listen to everybody's point of view, and not necessarily agree with everybody's point of view, but hear people's point of view and see how it makes sense in the grand scheme of things, right? What we can do. And I don't know what it's going to take. Okay? I know that from a financial standpoint, I think we're really close to something breaking there in that realm. If it hasn't already broken, I've been saying, They have to have justification to move us into a different system. And I think that's proof is in the pudding that's where we're headed. How we get to that point, might look different across the board to each and every perspective, but with the things that have come out, the documentation, it just leads me to, hey, the financial system is absolutely changing. How payments work and operate are absolutely changing. We have to have a form of adoption with this, because these things have to solve a problem. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days for checks to clear. Payments are extremely expensive. These are things that's why. Everything is manipulated in the system. I will say that again. Everything is manipulated in the system. The way these companies operate, allegedly they're valued at, all this money, and then when you look at the evaluations and actually where all that comes from, all these companies across the board fudge it, and they're fudging it amongst themselves, and there's no oversight over it, and I don't know that there necessarily needs to be oversight, but maybe, right? I'm not somebody that wants more regulations. I don't want more laws. But with that being said, there are specific cases in which, man, there need to be some regulations, right? There's a lot of things that these different industries, energy sector, right, where we don't understand the utter stupidity, I would call it, that the energy sector goes with, and these laws and regulations. I'm telling y'all, it is all, you wouldn't believe the amount of corruption, and it just feeds the next person. It's always not for what it's supposed to be for. It's like all these environmentalists that sue, they're not for saving the environment. They're not, these people that are for saving the animals, yeah, they might be saving the animals, but ultimately their goal isn't to save the animals. Like, I see it in so many different fields and industry, and it's just all, when you really look at it, it don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. The medical industry is absolutely backwards, and anybody that wants to tell me otherwise than that, oh, no, the medical industry, it's Gucci, and vaccines, they're Gucci. Yeah. Just think about that for a second. Alright? The flu shots. Are y'all kidding me? Now, y'all can disagree. You don't have to listen. But honestly, please use some logic here. Alright? They tell us that, which is cool. Right? The subtle mental gymnastics in this case. Cool. You want to be programmed, believe that. I'm cool. We always are told, and we just watched it. We just witnessed an absolute debacle, whether you believe one way, you believe a conspiracy or not, with what happened with the Vidco stuff, It was all bull. And what happens is you get the gobbledygook, the double speak, because people don't have time to look at the information. So if you're just told, this is a sample of what we found in this person and they died, and this is the sample of the virus that we're battling. Okay. Whatever. Alright. Hospitals get paid. Doctors get paid for what? It's a service. It's not They want to keep you as a customer. I don't understand what's so hard about people recognizing that and recognizing that it is absolutely evil. Now, the people that are working in these places, they don't know any better. They think they're just doing a good, because that's what we're told and that's what we're taught. It's not natural law. It's not universal law. None of that stuff is a common occurrence. In fact, most of the time, the medications and stuff that big pharma, by the way, the symbiotic relationship that they need to have with the medical industry, right? What are they, FDA, it's all fugazi, and they don't care. They don't care. It's not the way. And that's the thing, is we've been taught all these things, and then they become habitual. These things that we're programmed into believing. I mean, I look at the power lines, and I look at all this stuff, how dangerous this type of energy is, None of it makes any sense. None of it. And we've just been taught, nothing but lies, in my opinion. Genuinely, just lie after lie, and people say, well, why would they do that? Why would they do? Because if you don't know where you come from, what this place is, then how can you ever learn to what we are? Where this place, where we come from, any of this realm. I mean, I don't know. We live on a ball. Like, these are things that's like, come on, man. Make it make sense. We live on the outside of a ball. How do we live on the outside of a ball? How is that possible? How do we not? And we're spinning through outer space, and we're going down. The math doesn't math there. But if you put up a bunch of numbers that look crazy, and people don't actually want to do the work and put the time and the research in to actually do these and these equations, and when you start doing these equations, you start going, where did they come up with these numbers? How would you test that? How would that even, like, it's just goofy all the way across. The narrative never ever, and I'm telling you right now, reality is stranger than fiction, because the reality that has been placed in front of us is nothing more than illusionary, and that is 100%. From everything that we do, that we're told we're having a baby, the way that babies are born, if you will. The umbilical cord process, all that stuff. Before there were hospitals, before there was any of that stuff, how did that operate? I bet you it looked a lot different. But now it's everybody got to have a birth certificate, because you got to be insured and bonded at birth. That's why. Because you have to be bonded and insured. Well, why would that be? Why would you have to be bonded and insured? Because there's a whole bigger system that we don't know about. And until you know, and it just is what it is. But I'm hopeful, because there's enough information, right, out there that people can go do their own research. But it's just like goofy. Like I was saying, the medical industry, when you think about the flu shot, it's like, well, how do you know? They guess on the strain? That's what they tell us. They guess. Do they guess on the strain? Or is it more like they know exactly what they're doing because they release this. How do they release viruses? Something that you can't see, that you don't even know how you can contract, but they'll tell you it's there. They've got the technology to see. Oh yeah. Okay. Everything's backwards. It's all backwards. And I'm more interested in knowing, right, than being a part of the fake, the illusionary club. And it's all love. It is all love. I'm not saying this with venom. But it's like, man, no thanks. No thanks. Nope. And it's more. They build it out more. Build it out more because they have to build fake infrastructure to keep it going. Everything. The fake infrastructure of the medical industry, you know, and how do you get more people to not, you know, to buy into the medical industry? Well, then you take over the medical education, right? And that's what it happened. And at some point, it's everything. They own everything. Who's they? I don't know exactly. Couldn't tell you exactly who they are. They are the ones that control stuff from behind the scenes. And everything is absolutely curated. Everything is absolutely theater that you see when you watch television. It is 100% the news. It's all there. This is an ideology that was installed. This is not what we are. This is not a organic thing. This was curated. So when you watch the news and you feel some type of way one way or the other, whether you're on one side or the other, and make no mistake, there is not more than one side. It's their side and them, and then there's us. All right, there's the uninitiated and the initiated, and you have to understand what is going on around you. Now, that's not to say we need to worry, because honestly, worrying does not do anything. We control vastly less than what we even believe. And the things that we can't control are the way we react and respond, the actions that we take. And if it's not based in, how do I say this, like, you know, articulate this well, if it's based in somebody else's beliefs, then there you go. You know, I myself, I'm a deep thinker, and I like to understand how things work and operate, and I'm not accepting anything anymore as that's what it is. I want to learn how to do it. I want to learn what I'm getting myself into. And make no mistakes, I am still part of the system. I'm not like out of the system. I don't know how we do that. I don't know what's, you know, I don't want to just say, oh, that's poison, this is bad, I don't know. But I am at the point where I question everything, right? Because it's not, but the people that don't want to question everything, why not? I mean, I don't believe that a majority of what we know, right, we are doing those things the proper way. I just don't. You know, and it's very, very obvious and evident with the society we live in, right? Look around. We ain't living right. And you're not going to see me get up and be some, like, you know, activist one way or the other, because ultimately, you know, there's right and wrong, right? And I don't think it takes a lot for people to see what's right and what's wrong. I don't care what the laws say. I don't care what society tells you. All right, there's a lot that we get told that is wrong. It's wrong, and it just breeds more suffering for others. Now, I don't control anybody else, but I got babies. Well, I got a baby, if you will, who's still under double digits, and I want there to be a future for her and for my 2 older children. You know, I think what we have right now is we're at a point where, you know, there was at one time we had a monoculture where, you know, everything came from the same, we got our information from the same places consistently, and they weren't, you know, they all got their information from the same places, just the same. Yes, is it similar in that regard with the internet nowadays? To some degree. I mean, yeah, for sure. Whoever's controlling the internet, yeah, you're definitely seeing the same message for sure, right? But when the internet came out, and ever since then, you've had different stances on history, different stances on so many different things. And that's the pivotal part where we went from monoculture to, you know, truth is subjective. And people question the narrative now. And there are sets of narratives, and, you know, everything's a conspiracy theory now. It's like, man, come on. Very, 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 very easy to see where there's a lot of, if nothing else, discrepancies in narrative and what's actual, you know. I mean, NASA from top to bottom, when you really break it down, you just use some logic, real logic. Nothing they tell us, nothing we've ever been taught. No. I mean, I reject that. I reject that we've been to the moon. I reject that the moon is a place you could go. I reject that we're on a ball spinning thousands of miles an hour through space. Nope. And perspective is a major thing, but informationally, perspective is a big thing. And there's not one thing that truly definitively can prove that this world is round. That we're just floating in space, just a world floating in space where we live on the outside layer of a ball. Then your space narrative and the vacuum and all that, how does that all work? I mean, it's like, yeah, you're saying one thing, but then, yeah, that don't make no sense. Don't make sense that, you know, if we're in a vacuum, you know, and gravity and yada, yada, yada. These things do not make sense when you start adding up maybe differing ideas. So, I was rambling, but yeah, we got to do better. And no hate, it's not a hate thing. You could be, you know, your emotions can lead you to anger, but don't let that cause harm to you or your body. I got love, much love in this heart. Yeah, get that frequency up. I'm starting to really be able to be more aware, cognizant, if you will, of when I feel myself kind of leaning into emotions and starting to act upon emotions instead of just, that's all it is. Let it go. Let it be. Accept what you know. I genuinely think the bravery is the true definition to me of bravery is, something that you don't understand, accepting something that you don't understand. One way or the other. That's bravery. You don't understand it. You don't understand why you lost this, or you don't understand why this was taken from you. You don't understand, but accept it. Because life is a process. You dig? Anyway, I could talk for hours. Etymology. I've got a lot of information that I've researched for years now. And I just don't feel like any of this aligns with the things that we were taught growing up. And then the things that we were taught growing up and the things my children were taught at school. And it makes you just wonder, what are we really doing this for? This world is set up for us to only be services and goods and commerce. All right. And we're all consumers, and that's all they want is for us to consume. But they've manipulated the world to now where it's all about the dollar, all about money. A worthless, truly worthless, and should be valueless paper runs the world. That's where they fooled a lot of people. That system. Central banks. And I don't want to say that everything's inherently bad, because it's not. But the way we choose to go about it, I'm just saying, maybe we should reflect and look back into some stuff, the way we act as society. Anyhow, down with the government, down with all of it, but no fear. Genuinely, whatever's going to be is going to be. No reason to fear. No reason to put your emotions on high alert. Put your body in a state of fear. Everything from love, all of it, man. Enjoy things for what they are, and I always say it's easier said than done, and I definitely have had my struggles, especially when it comes to like wants and desires and trying to force things and not having the ability to take a step back and go, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? Not everything that's sent to you is for you. It may be it's usually a lesson, is what I'm learning. Everything's fleeting, but all that being said, I'm not no guru. These are my thoughts, my honest thoughts, and I'm trying to be as mellow and level-headed as can be on a consistent basis. I do like to think. Thinking's not harmful when you allow your thoughts to linger, and those thoughts linger into emotions, and emotions that take over and attack you, essentially. So don't allow that. Mr. Nuts, just living. That's what life is. Just live. And a major F you to the government, but not here nor there. I'm out.